everyone, I hope you guys are doing well and happy new year, as this is the first video of the year. And I heard that the next results have been announced at a lot of places, and those who got selected, congratulations. I hope you guys come to Japan soon. I'm happy for you guys, your hard work paid off. And for those who not got selected this year, I will say keep trying next year as well. This is not the end of the world. You will definitely get your chance. Just keep trying. All the best for the preparation. So as the next results are out and people are about to come to Japan, so I thought to make a video about my monthly expenses in Japan through max stipend, and to tell you guys, is max stipend enough to live in Japan? So let's get into it. So in the beginning, I just want to mention it and clear that these expenses depends where you are living in Japan, the city where you are living in Japan. So I live in Kyoto, so depending on where you are living, it can be plus and minus. If you live in places like Tokyo or Osaka, it can be little expensive than Kyoto, but if you live in other prefecture which is not that crowded, or metropolitan city, it can be lesser than Kyoto as well. So it's a rough estimate. So starting with necessities, which includes the rent and bills. So for my rent, as I live in apartment, I used to live in a dorm, but I have to move out of my dorm after 6 months. So now I live in apartment, which is a common rule here in Japan for universities, that you have to move out of your dorm after 6 months or 1 year. You probably cannot live here for whole of your duration for masters or PhD or undergraduate, so eventually you have to move out. So I found an apartment in Kyoto, and which cost me around 35,000 yen. I've actually made a detailed video of how I found my apartment and what were the necessary steps and all the details of bills and utilities of my apartment in a room tour video. So if you need more details about it, you can check that out as well. So yeah, my rent is around 35,000 yen, and which excludes my gas bill as well as electricity bill. So electricity bill and gas bill actually depends month to month, but it's roughly around 4,000 yen. But again, it's winter, so I use a lot of hot water and the heater as well. So electricity bill kind of rises up, which sometimes can lead to around 7,000 yen as well in winters, but roughly it's around 4,000 to 5,000 yen. For my mobile, it actually depends which mobile carrier are you using. I'm using SoftBank mobile, so I have to give around 2,500 for a month, and only for 3 GB, which is very less for a month. And mostly I exhaust my 3 GB before month ends, because in India the internet is very cheap, and 3 GB for a day I used to use that, but here it's 3 GB for a month, so it's quite difficult to adapt to that. So yeah, the internet is quite expensive here, but you can find Wi-Fi at most of the places, and also some apartment includes Wi-Fi in their bill and some don't, so you have to pay for the Wi-Fi separately. My apartment includes the Wi-Fi. I just have to buy a router, so Wi-Fi bill is included in my rent. So while living in Japan, you have to also pay for national health insurance money, which is a yearly thing, or you can pay it monthly as well. They will send out a slip in around May or June, so you can pay the whole slip, the whole amount in your city office, or you can pay the monthly amount at a combini or the city office as well. So for the students, the decreased amount is around 1,200 yen to 1,700 yen. Actually, it depends on the month, so it's around that. And these were all the utilities that I wanted to mention. food category, let's talk about groceries first. So in groceries you can find at kombini as well, but there's not much options. You can find only the necessities things, and it can be little expensive. And then you can have then you can go to supermarket like Fresco, which is actually a Kansai thing, a Kyoto thing more specifically. There are like different supermarket chains around the Japan, so it depends on your prefecture. In Kyoto it's Fresco is quite popular here. And then there is a wholesale supermarket chain, which like one of a famous one is Gyomu, and I think that's the most cheapest option if you want to take like buy groceries. So you have like these options to buy groceries from, and the fruits and vegetables can be a little expensive here than India. Some fruits, especially like watermelon, mangoes or grapes, are like super expensive. And yeah, you can't like buy it in kilos, you have to buy it in like as piece. Most of the fruits, most of the things you have to buy it as like piece. Fruits and vegetable are definitely on the expensive side. And other things, if you eat meat, like chicken or other meat, then those are around like reasonable price. So my groceries, like I go to grocery shopping twice or thrice a month. Mostly I go to Gyomu, so I go there and I buy a lot of groceries for 10 days around, or 15 days. So I go to there like 2 to 3 times a month, and I spend around 4,000 yen every time I go there. So it's around like 12 to 15,000 yen for my groceries. It can range up to 15,000 yen to 20,000 yen as well, depending on where you live. Things can be expensive. So yeah, this was the range of groceries. So if you can cook a 2-time meal for yourself, then you can save a lot of money, because then you don't have to eat out, and which can be a little bit of expensive here. So it's good for you, but I know like being as a student, it's not that easy to cook for ourselves, like cook a 2 meal for ourselves. Sometimes to eat out at cafeteria, or you have to eat out like at places like restaurants or something like that. So I want like to talk about the expenses of those things. So the university cafeteria food is actually cheaper than restaurants, but if you are a vegetarian, then you might not find a lot of options there. The most classic option would be rice and miso soup, and other than that there's not much variety available. So yeah, that can be an issue. But the university food is quite like affordable. So it's like if you order a lot of things like a chicken, rice and some side dish, it can cost you around 500 to 600 yen per meal. And if you just order one thing like a ramen set, or just curry rice, or like some rice and chicken set, it can cost you around like 200 to 300 yen as well for each meal. So for me, my cafeteria food is around like the expenses of the cafeteria food monthly is around 6 to 7,000 yen. Yeah, around 6 to 7,000 yen. And sometimes if I don't want to eat at like at cafeteria, I go to some place nearby my university to eat, and those can be a little expensive. So eating out in general is around like 10,000 to 15,000 yen per month. So talking about the transportation, so here in Kyoto, the buses and for trains, the transportation fees is around 230 yen. For buses, it's like if you go to one stop, or either you go to 10 stop, it's gonna be 230 yen. So it's like that. And since Kyoto is very bikeable city, a lot of people have bicycle here, so I also have bicycle, so it's quite easier to like move around in city. You don't have to take trains and buses a lot. But in winter it's difficult for me to bike, so I take bus for to go to my university. I can sometimes walk around as well, so the transportation cost is not that much for me. But if you like live far away from your university and you have to commute regularly by train or bus, then I would suggest to make a like commuter pass, and I think that would cost around 10 to 11,000 yen. So the ideal transportation cost is around 7,000 to 10,000 yen if I take buses and trains regularly. So if you live in like cities where it's easy for you to move around with bicycle, I would suggest like buy a bicycle, then you can save a lot on transportation. But in cities like Osaka and Tokyo, it's not easy to move around with bicycles. So yeah, I think the ideal cost would be around 10,000 to 11,000 yen. Now talking about the miscellaneous things, which includes your hobbies, shopping, going out on trips, or like going out in general with your friends and all. So you can have a fixed budget for it, like dedicated to it, like 30,000 or 40,000 yen per month, and you can use from that. Or I think that's a good way to track your saving, like track your expenses. But I actually don't do that, so it's difficult for me to track my miscellaneous things, like miscellaneous activities and expenses. But in general, for shopping, I plan to not I try to not to exceed the 10,000 yen limit for a month. So it's that. And like for just in general going out, since it's winter, I don't go out a lot, so it's around like 5,000 yen plus and minus, depends on the month. So it's around 15,000 yen to 20,000 yen sometimes for the miscellaneous things. So yeah, actually it depends from person to person. So the total of all of the expenses would be around 1 lakh yen to 1,20,000 yen, which is around 100,000 yen to 120,000 yen per month. As I said, it depends month to month. Some months I try to cut down on my miscellaneous thing, and it might be go around less than 100,000 yen, maybe 97 or 90,000 yen per month, and sometimes it might exceed the stipend, which is around 147,000 yen. For like living in Kyoto, for master student it's 147,000 yen, but if you are doing PhD it might be a little bit higher for you, and if you are doing an undergraduate it might be a little lower for you. So as a master student, I am like able to save around 10 to 15,000 or sometimes 20,000 yen per month. I know that's not much, but yeah, Japan is quite expensive, and it's the max stipend is enough to survive and live here, as if you're living here alone. But if you're coming here with a family, then I think it might not be enough for you, because all these expenses were for a single person. So yeah, you might need to find a part-time job or like some extra side expenses, like side income. But if you're living here alone, then I think it's sufficient. So yeah, this was a rough breakdown of my expenses each month. And so this is it for today's video. I hope it was useful for you guys, and for everyone who is coming to Japan, all the best with your preparations. And yeah, if you have any queries, you can ask me in comments or you can DM me. My Instagram ID is linked down in description. And yeah, I'll see you guys in next video. Till then, bye bye.